Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Rebecca. I'm a spiritual medium and animal communicator. Today I feel so blessed to share with you a beautiful channeling from the lovely Olivia Newton-John. The way in which I work, you will know this if you followed me for a while, but if you're new here, welcome. If I'm working with clients or with their animal companions, I'm actively reaching out to their energy to work with them. I do this sometimes in my wider animal communication work as well. If there is a particular species I'm interested in learning more about, I will actively reach out to the energy in the animal kingdom to ask if they would like to communicate. However, with my channeling work of perhaps better known people, I have never done that to date. That's not the way that I have worked. That may change in the future, but I have always left my work open to if the spirit of somebody wishes to come forward and they have an alignment with me, they perhaps have lessons for me in my own life, or they have something that they want to share with the wider collective through me as a channel. That is how I've worked. So you won't see lots and lots of channeling sessions with famous people here on my YouTube channel, because currently that's not the way I work. I allow them to approach me. And with this channeling today, it's a channeling I actually did in August 2023, and it was quite unexpected. And I've been feeling Olivia's beautiful energy around me. It was a channeling that I knew had some deeper meaning to it. Some of it made sense at the time, some of it didn't. And I kept it kind of, I kept it in my mind. And she had always kind of said, it will all make sense. And she's been around me a lot in the last couple of weeks. She's been around me a lot. And I feel that now is the time to share it. There is messages in there for the wider world and for humanity. And just really sharing her beautiful, loving energy. She really was like an earth angel. She just had such a luminous quality about her. Also, when I'm channeling, in order that I don't have any bias for the people that I'm working with, if I don't really know anything about them, I won't dive into any research until I've actually completed the channeling session. And I found that to be much more beneficial because I don't go in with any preconceived ideas. It enables me to kind of do my own research and kind of check things back later so that things slot into place. And as I said, then I don't have any bias with my readings. So I'll give you some of the facts that I have gained after the work I did in 2023, just facts about Olivia that are out there. So she was born on September the 26th, 1948 in Cambridge, England, which I found interesting because I didn't know that she was actually born in England. She died on August the 8th, 2022 in her beautiful ranch home in California, surrounded by her friends, her family and her animals. She moved to Australia at the age of 5. Something I found really interesting because she doesn't really, whenever you listen to her talk, and she had such a beautiful voice, she really had the Australian accent. She didn't really have, to my ears anyway, she didn't have any trace of an English accent left behind. She'd been singing since the age of 15. She'd had several kind of smaller parts on TV shows, and she'd sung in places as she was growing up. She'd been singing since the age of 15, and she just loved it. She absolutely loved singing. She's probably most well known, for those of you perhaps that don't know a great deal about her, she's most well known for Grease, the movie musical, which was made in 1978, where she starred as a main character, Sandy, alongside John Travolta. It was a movie set in the 1950s, and to this day, it's still beloved by many people. It's one of my favourite movies. And for me, not knowing anything else about Olivia, that's where I kind of found her. I was exposed to her in my younger years, and I fell in love with her character, Sandy. I loved her. I loved her as she was, as she was dressed as the Sandy who was kind of prim and proper, and I loved her when she transformed in the movie to that kind of slightly like wilder, rock chick kind of image. And I had actually several years ago, I had actually gone to a fancy dress party as Sandy. So when she came into my kind of energy field and making me aware of her, it was really beautiful for me. It was just such a lovely connection because I didn't know anything about her, other than seeing her in Greece, absolutely loving her voice and just being just so drawn in as a younger girl, so drawn into her natural beauty and just the way that she carried herself. She was so elegant and just lovely. I don't really know what other word to give her. She was just beautiful and lovely. I think it was really lovely, as I did the research following the channeling, to see how she had grown. And in her career, she kind of started out with country pop and moved through different genres as she kind of found her voice and found her confidence as she was growing up. And it made me laugh because I was reminded of her physical, which was Let's Get Physical, a single that she released in the 1980s, and it was 1981, where she was dressed all in her kind of aerobics gear, and it was quite a saucy song at the time. Some of the lyrics were a little bit saucy, and it made me laugh because it just really showcased, like, she did have this cheeky side, and I found that during the channeling she had this lovely warmth about her, this down to earth, but also she had this like cheeky, like a twinkle in her eye, this cheeky side of her with a great sense of humour. And several radio stations, from my understanding, actually banned the song because it was a bit too risque. So yeah, that tickled me really. She did so much work, and I hadn't known this until I did my research, but it's beautiful that she came to me and asked me to do this channeling with her, because it ties in so deeply with the things that are close to my heart. And I hadn't known this about her. She was a deep, deep lover of animals, and she was in love with the earth as well. And I hadn't known, but in 1984, she actually became a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations Environment Programme. She was so deeply concerned about caring for the environment and raising awareness to other people. She's just done so much in her career. She's done so much. She's worked on books, duetted with other musicians. She's won several awards, both for her outreach and campaigning work, and for her musical talent. She was... In 1979, she was made an Officer of the Order of the British Empire, which is an OBE. And then that was on the New Year's honour list. And then she was promoted to be a Dame in 2020. She was also appointed Officer of the Order of Australia in 2006, which was elevated to Companion of the Order of Australia in 2019. She's just done so much. If you read up on her, there was so much more. And it was funny because as I was pulling together some facts so that I could give you a little bit of a background on her, she was just saying to me, that doesn't matter. Like, all the accolades don't matter. The deeper meaning is in who I was and who I still am. We often get blinded by people's credentials and lose sight of who we are at our core. And I think that's a really important, thing that we should all be remembering, especially at these difficult times upon the earth right now, is actually remembering who we are and how we are connected. And she's saying connected to the earth as well. So she was diagnosed with cancer. She had breast cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer I'm just looking at my notes here, she was diagnosed. Yeah, she was diagnosed with cancer in 1992. She was initially diagnosed with breast cancer. And even then, this lady was just such a selfless lady. She helped to establish the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Centre at the Austin Hospital near Melbourne, Victoria, in Australia in 2012. And she had a book which was called Live Wise, Easy Recipes for a Healthy, Happy Life. And all of the proceeds from that book went to fund this centre. And she put a lot of money into cancer research. And in 2020, she founded the Olivia Newton-John Foundation Fund, which was a charity sponsoring research into plant-based treatments for cancer. She was a lot about living naturally, living holistically, and she just did so much. And I was blown away doing this research about how many, yeah, she said, my finger was in all of the pies. She just had such a deep love for life and living, and it was almost like everything she encountered in her life was just fuel for her. It was fuel for her to keep on going, and fuel for her to raise awareness, to help others, to share that love. She honestly is just such a beautiful, beautiful lady. She, in 2017, she said that her cancer had returned, and unfortunately it had spread to her back. And she wrote an autobiography in 2018, and it was titled Don't Stop Believing, which I believe was also the name of an album that she had done previously as well. And as I was doing this research and I was writing this note about her autobiography, Don't Stop Believing, she said to me, I still stand by that phrase now, don't stop believing, never stop. Keep on believing, believe in yourself, believe in the things that you love, believe that things can get better, and believe in life, believe in humanity. Yeah, she's just like, don't stop believing. She just stands by that phrase. And I hadn't known, but I listened to it this morning and I was in floods of tears. I feel really emotional now. She wrote her final song, Window to the Wall, in 2021, which was a duet with her daughter. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to read the lyrics of that because they are profound and they are so right for this time that we find ourselves in right now. So they're the kind of the facts about, she's saying the facts about my life, not about who I was. The facts about her, and painting a little bit of a picture before I get into this lovely channeling, just to help you to see kind of all of the elements that make up this fabulous lady. And so I'll get into the channeling now, and I have Olivia's energy here with me again today, so that we can expand on anything, and she can add in anything else. And she's saying, oh, don't you worry, we will. She can add in anything else since that time that I did the channeling with her originally to now, if there's anything else that she wants to share with you all. So I do have my notes here from 2023, because as well, anyone who does channeling work will tell you that when you are channeling, you're very much you're in the experience with the energy and the person or the animals that you are channeling, but also when you step away from that, because you were deep in that energy connection and you're working with spirit, it's your spirit working with their spirit, you don't remember it on a human level. You don't remember it. You might remember kind of snippets of it, but because you're working at a different level with channeling, you're in an elevated state of consciousness, you're working at a very different level, so you can't recall it in the same way that it was a conversation that you might have had face to face with somebody living. So I will go back through my notes, so please do excuse me if I am looking down, but I know that Olivia will have some other things that she wants to come in and say today. So let's get into this. So what happened was, as I had said, I didn't really know anything else about Olivia Newton-John other than I fell in love with her as a young girl, watching her in Greece. I loved all the songs. I loved the story. I loved the fact that she was, you know, she was effectively bullied in the movie. She was bullied by kind of the more popular girls, and that's something I really resonated with, as I was bullied a lot as a young girl, and how she found her confidence within the movie. And you know, it was like, just by being her, she found friends and she found love, and she, you know, she did change who she was, but it was a growth. She wasn't changing in order to fit in. It was actually growth that you could see through the movie within her character. And she's saying that that's very much like her own life. She had to find herself. She, you know, she moved about. Not only did she move from her home, even though she was young and she doesn't remember much about her life in England, she did have to move. And then, as you know, as a star, a huge music star, she toured around a lot. She was in different countries, embracing different cultures. So she was growing all the time. And she says that she was very aware of her own journey, her own personal growth journey. And she made it her mission to grow. It was very important to her to be able to grow and embrace new experiences, and to learn from everything that life kind of brought into her pathway. So I had fallen in love with her because of that, but didn't know anything else other than I loved her voice. And in August, it was August the 21st, 2023, is when she first asked me to channel with her. And what had happened was, a couple of weeks leading up to that date, I kept hearing the song from the movie Grease, Hopelessly Devoted to You. And it's a song that I really loved. It's a song that I've often sung myself through the years. It's one of my favourite songs from the movie. And I kept hearing her singing it. And often, I've spoken before about, I will get messages from Spirit in the form of song. And I was kind of like, I'd heard it come in and I was like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that song. I really love it. So I'd listen to it, but it kept coming back to me over the course of a couple of weeks. It kept coming back to me. And I could suddenly feel Olivia Newton-John's presence. And it was a lovely moment of almost like I'd been hearing the song, then I felt her presence. And as I acknowledged her, she was just beaming smiles of like, yes, you finally got it. I'm here and I'd like to work with you. And I remember at the time being a bit like, you know, why me? But now actually understanding from the research I've done about how she deeply loved animals and Mother Earth and the work that she was doing, it ties in beautifully with my own journey with working with the animal kingdom. And yeah, she said to me this morning as I was like researching, and the more I was uncovering and going, oh, it makes sense now why you came to talk to me. She said, we have work to do. We still have a lot of work to do here. And she's, I feel honoured that she wants to be around to see, you know, where my work with animal communication goes and develops, and how we can, both on a human level and also with her in spirit on a spiritual level, working to raise awareness of the animal kingdom and for humanity to better understand them. She had said in an interview that I read, she had said previously that she was asked about why she had such a deep love for animals, and she had said because animals give you so much and they demand so little, and you can trust them. And I think that is just beautiful. It just sums it up perfectly. Animals trust us, but we can put our complete trust in animals. They are just beautiful. I love all the work that I do with animals. So Olivia had made her presence known to me anyway, and so I was sitting in my garden, and it was a lovely sunny day, August the 21st, 2023, and she had taken me, so when I work, just say for anyone that is new here that perhaps hasn't watched my videos previously, when I work with Spirit, I I receive messages in a variety of ways. I will see what I call like movie strips, film strips, where I'm literally immersed into an experience that they have had or a memory, and they are showing me as if I'm actually observing, but also within the movie. So I'm kind of living it real time as they're showing it to me. I will see and hear words. Sometimes I'll see the words in front of me with my third eye. I will actually hear them physically speaking to me. There's a variety of ways in which they communicate, and this channeling with Olivia was a really immersive experience, and I found it quite emotional because not only was I experiencing it and seeing how I felt myself, I was also feeling her emotions from the time and her recollection of how she felt at the time. So when she first came to me, she was wearing this lovely light peach blouse, which had no sleeves, and it had like these short ruffles around the arm openings. And her hair at the time was kind of blonde and wavy, and she had it up in a banana clip, and I could see like she had some highlights put in her hair as well. She was very blonde anyway, but she'd had some highlights put in her hair as well. And she was wearing these beautiful light blue acrylic button earrings, which looked like they had like these tiny little crystals hanging off the bottom of them. And she had this lovely kind of coral coloured lipstick on. And just as she appeared, like as I'm describing what she was wearing, it had this lovely soft energy, these lovely soft pastel colours. She has like this lovely soft pastel energy. And as she came through to me, she said to me, it wasn't always easy. It was hard to show my softer side. There was always a dilemma, and I came face to face with my own dag. And I was like, what does that mean? Now, I know that dag is an Australian slang word, and I was thinking, how does this make sense in the way that she had said it? And so I'll read to you what the definition is, because it did make me laugh, and it made perfect sense as I kind of went through this with her. So it says, dag is an Australian and New Zealand slang term, also being daggy. It is often used as an affectionate insult for someone who is or is perceived to be unfashionable, lacking self-consciousness about their appearance and or with poor social skills, yet affable and amusing. It is also used to describe an amusing, quirky and likeable person and is non-pejorative. The term was more widely used in the 70s due to the popular New Zealand comedy Fred Dag. The term may be simply affectionate, such as when it was used to describe recipes in an enduringly popular Australian Women's Weekly children's birthday cake book. So that made me laugh because as soon as I read the definition of it, it made sense to me of what she said. She came face to face with her own dag. This is her working on her shadow side, and she's laughing and nodding as I'm trying to explain it, because she's like, she wouldn't have been able to put it into words and explain it. She came face to face with feeling like this was like her shadow side. She will say later on that, you know, she had often felt kind of uncomfortable finding herself in this like with the fame that she had, and finding herself in this really like elevated position of being widely known. She had to look at herself and look at like when she felt uncomfortable and she was a little bit quirky and kind of did her own thing. And she'd even said previously in interviews that she had where she grew up in Australia, there was a lot of animals that weren't treated very well, you know, animals that would be shot on sight or just left abandoned in the street. And she was always bringing home stray animals, which her mum wasn't really fond of. So she'd always thought, you know, she was going to have animals and work with animals. So she was kind of quirky. She was quirky growing up. And this, her saying she came face to face with her own dag, was like this other version of herself, the version of herself that didn't always feel like she fitted in, didn't always understand everything, was quirky. She also did feel self-conscious quite often. And again, she's showing me now the contrast between the two characters in the movie Grease, you know, the prim and proper girl who was studious and the kind of the wild child, the quirky, wanting to branch out, and having confidence, but not having the confidence over here, as she was, in her day-to-day life. So she's laughing and she's saying, that's it, that's exactly how she felt. So that didn't make sense to me at the time, but looking up that word, it made total sense to me, and understanding now, I wouldn't have understood it had I looked it up in 2023. I still wouldn't have understood it. However, having gone through my own kind of shadow work and uncovering these layers and understanding, I completely get what she was saying now. This was a part of her journey. So at the time, I was questioning her, and she was hurrying me along, like she just wanted to get into it, and she was just saying, don't worry, it will all make sense. Well, it didn't make sense during that channeling in 2023, but it makes sense now that she's just laughing about that. Like, well, I did tell you it would all make sense, and now it does. She said, there's no time, let's go. And she was rolling her hands like this, like, let's wrap things up. There's no time, let's go. She wanted to speed things along, and she was showing me her energy. She was getting up, and she was wearing these lovely, again, really soft pastel colours, light blue capri cotton trousers just above the ankle with these flat off-white moccasins. And she'd been sat on this kind of like a low-level wooden stool, and she was moving it out of the way. And suddenly I was in this whole kind of immersive experience, and I can still remember the feeling of sitting in my garden and working with her energy, to then be energetically and what felt like physically transported. Everything around me changed. The garden disappeared, and I was suddenly in this big room. It was a very white room, very light, and there was a yellow two-seater sofa, which was made of a cotton type of fabric, with a blue and cream checked blanket half over the arm, as if you would leave a blanket so that if you were chilly in the evening, you could pull it over your legs. And there was a woven rug on the floor made of like plaited kind of hessian. And there was an island, like a kitchen island. It was like almost like this room was like an apartment. I can still visualize it now while I'm talking about it. It was like an apartment. So you had like the living room area was at the front where we were seeing right now, but in the background there was like a kitchen island. That was like a light oak kitchen island, and it had some canisters on it, like you would store tea and coffee and things like that in it, and a lemon cone-shaped kettle. And there were 4 cupboards on the wall that had like a denim coloured, weathered, like faded doors. And they had oak knobs on all of the doors. And there was a door to the left of the wall with the cupboards on it. And the sun was shining down through the hall, through the glass panelled door. And at the time I had written, it felt more like a set and not someone's home. Now that could be that it just felt, she's saying empty. It was like a base. So this feels like, it didn't feel like Olivia's home. This felt like somewhere that she would have stayed at some point. So maybe like an apartment, perhaps she was touring, or it was just a base. Like she's saying, it was just a base, this place that she was showing me and that I was immersed in. And she sighed and she smoothed her hands on her trousers and was like, I'm ready. This one is the big one. And suddenly this man hurriedly walked into this vision. He was quite a large man with a round face. He had brown eyes, a bristly short moustache, and he was wearing a black polo shirt with dark grey trousers, and it felt a little bit like a uniform. And it was really difficult because as he came in, he didn't even acknowledge her. Like, it was just... I can still feel the feeling of like, if you've ever had that where you've like, gone to say hello to someone and they've just gone past you, like you didn't even exist. It was just this really sad feeling. He rushed in and pushed a silver metal briefcase onto this kitchen island, and he started getting paperwork out, and he was pushing things out of the way. on the countertop in order to make space for laying out all of this paperwork, and he felt really hurried and irritated. Felt like him coming here to see her, he was just really inconvenienced. And it was just really sad because she was facing him and kind of nervously tucking the loose bits of her hair behind her ear, and she had this big beaming smile on her face, like an expectant child waiting for him to notice her. But as I looked at her, and now if you've seen any photos of Olivia Newton-John, or any time she was, at any events, she had the most beautiful smile. She was a lady that when she smiled, her whole face lit up. And she was showing me, like, she had this big beaming smile, but this smile never reached her eyes. It wasn't a genuine smile. It was almost like an anxious kind of like, an anxious smile that she had. And her eyes were actually filled with tears in this vision. And I can still remember, it makes me feel quite emotional now, because it was almost like the feeling of like a child, like all excited and expectant and happy. And then the adult just didn't even acknowledge her. Just really, really, really sad. And she was just about to speak and say, hello, or speak to him and say something to him. She's saying she was about to welcome him. But he just snapped the case shut. And he turned around and he was already walking out through the door. And she had this like nervous chuckle, because I was like, well, that was rude, and I still feel that now. It was rude. And he didn't acknowledge her. He'd put all this paperwork on her countertop, moving all of the things out of the way, and as she was about to speak, he'd snapped the case shut. He turned around and he was already walking back towards the door, and without even looking at her, he just said, sign the papers, get back to us. And he waved his hands in this dismissive manner, like over his shoulder, like, sign the papers, get back to us. It was just incredibly rude, but I really felt for Olivia, because she just doesn't have that energy. Her energy is an energy of warmth, and I feel like even if you were a total stranger, you didn't know her, whether you bumped into her on the street, whether you served her in a coffee shop, whether you were working with her for any amount of time, or whether you were a loved one, she always treated everyone with the same warmth and the same kindness. And yeah, she's saying to me, Olivia the star wasn't Olivia the person. She always treated people with the respect that she wished to be treated with. It was very important to her to remain humble. Yeah, and to be fair, even though I said I don't know a lot about Olivia, she's not one of those big stars that you ever saw. I don't ever recall seeing, how you remember, like with famous people, headlines that stood out over the years. I never remember seeing anything bad about her in the headlines. She says she wasn't always perfect, but she did always try very hard to ensure that she treated people in the same way that she wished to be treated. And so that's why this immersive memory that she was showing me just made me feel quite sad, because you could see it as an outsider looking in, but she also impressed upon me how she felt. And so after he'd kind of like dismissed her and just left, her face just completely crumpled, and I honestly thought she was going to cry. I mean, she says she did shed a few tears. She looked like she was going to cry, and she turned back to me and she beamed her big smile again. And again, it was that kind of like the smile that wasn't really the smile. It was like the full smile, and just said, well, that's that. Like, and she sat back down again with her legs slightly apart on this low wooden stool that she'd been on, and she was resting her elbows on her knees and her hands were cupping her face. And she just sighed and said they never had time to wait. And I feel that deeply connected to kind of the burnout energy of not just big celebrities, you know, and Hollywood is notorious for stars and, you know, artists getting completely burnt out and suffering. And I feel like with Olivia, she has this beautiful, calm energy. And even though she was caught up in the hustle and bustle of, you know, the music industry, and she very much loved performing, she really loved singing. She got tired. She got really tired with the rush of it all. Um, and she didn't like that feeling. She didn't like the feeling of being hurried along because it didn't align with her energy. Her energy was soft and gentle and much more kind of flowing. And so this constant, like, you know, she said they never had time to wait. It was always like, sign the papers, perform this, travel here, do that. It was, she's saying, it was a whirlwind. It was just a whirlwind of all this stuff. And even though she loved performing and she loved the connections it afforded her and the joy that she brought to people, she was very aware of the joy that you know, her performances brought to people. And she says she felt blessed for that. She also had this deep longing for the realignment with her energy of slowing down and just, yeah, she's saying, just allowing the beauty of life to sink in. And I think that's something that we can all understand, the constant rushing. You know, we rush a lot in life. I did a video about it as well previously, talking about how when we're rushing, we're actually missing and not enjoying the actual journey of life. We're always, you know, must get here, must achieve this, must do this. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and society puts a lot of pressure on us. And so she just had that deep yearning for this peaceful, calm, more alignment with what her energy was attuned to. And she had said to me, so back to my notes about the channeling, she said she struggled to slow down. She wanted time for the finer things that were important to her, reading, listening, dancing. And she says it was always a whirlwind. There was no heartfelt joy, just do. And I think that's an important lesson for us all. Like, I can feel her now, is like the energy is like she just took a big and relaxed. Like, she's still doing a lot. She says, you know, I'm still busy. There's still a lot that she's doing and helping with from spirit. But now she has that time. She has that time to relax. And she did also make it a priority. In her downtime, she was very, she said it was very important to create and protect her sacred space. So in her downtime with friends, with family, with her animals, it was very important that she had that time to relax. So when she was working, again, it's that she's showing me that contrast of like the two characters of Sandy in the movie. She had that contrast of like the do, you know, constantly busy energy. But it was very important that when she did have that downtime, that's specifically what that was for. Yeah, she says there were no two ways about it. When that was my time, that was my time. So I think that's really nice. She was very aware of the balance that she needed in her life, and she tried to create that, even though sometimes she did find it difficult. She said her favourite times were when she was alone with the dogs. And I was seeing at the time she was showing me, I know she had several animals. She had horses, cats, dogs. And she loved animals. She just loved them so much. And in this vision that she was showing me, I was seeing her curled up on a seat with a white floppy-eared dog, just laying on her legs, where her legs were kind of curled up. He was like, the dog was like in the crook of her legs. Yeah, I was feeling like it was a male dog. He was in the crook of her legs, and she was saying that they would both sit quietly together, and sometimes just sit quietly and listen. She liked to sit and listen to them breathing, and just being in their energy. And sometimes she would sit and chat, and they would just listen. Yeah, I just feel like a real peace and a lovely calming energy. It's like this energy of like a little hug, a cocooned energy of love, and this little bubble where she was just taking time out. And this made me laugh. I was drawing, so as I write my notes, sometimes when they're things that I want to remember and I'm not sure I've written them down very well, like I'm not very descriptive, I'll do a little drawing, and I drawn on my notes this little picture of a stick person curled up with their legs on the chair and the dog tucked in, so I could accurately remember how it looked. And she said, "Oh, I love the drawing, by the way," which made me laugh. Now, at this point, my pen ran out of ink. It was like the information was coming from her faster than I could keep up, and my pen ran out of ink, and so I had to kind of like come back into the physical world to then go into my house and get a new pen. And it was really sad, because I probably should have said to her before I did that, "I'll be back." And as I was kind of withdrawing my energy, she sat up and looked really worried, like, "Oh, you're leaving me too?" And I could feel like the memory of what I just said to you that she'd shown me with this man coming in and not acknowledging her and rushing off without giving her time to interact. It had brought up that fear of like, "Oh, you leaving me as well? You don't want to listen." And so I'd said to her, like, she looked really worried, and I said, "I'm coming back." And she just really laughed nervously and said, "Oh, good. I thought you were leaving me too." And you know, she's smiling. She's saying, "We're laughing about it now. We are laughing about it now." But that was a lesson for me that I probably should have said to her. I do it when I work with animals. I always tell them what I'm doing, and, you know, step by step. And that was a lesson for me, because her being another person, I had assumed that, you know, she would be able to see, we're sharing each other's energy. She would see the pen had run out of ink, I needed to go and get another pen, without actually thinking it may have triggered something for her. So that was a teaching moment for me. And yeah, she's fine. We're laughing about it now. But so I got the pen and came back, and she was showing me the energy of her sitting with this dog that she was with at the time, in this lovely relaxing bubble. And it was lovely. It was like nighttime, and the view was like, I could see like a city skyline at night, and the windows were floor to ceiling. And it was a very different room to the one we were in. This was like an apartment, and it felt still didn't feel fully like home, but it felt more homely. There was like a table against the wall, and there was where the sofa was, where she was sitting, there was some dried flower arrangements, and the lighting was like really soft and warm. And there was this music softly playing in the background, and it just, even now I can feel like it's lovely, like this like dreamy energy of like just relaxing, and yeah, just this really soft, lovely, relaxed energy. And she was just so chilled out. And I said to her, like, "Oh, the music's really nice," but I didn't know what it was. And she just said, "Oh, it's mellow jazz." And she said to me, "All I wanted was to be seen. I was such a shy little girl. I was often overlooked. I felt gawky and obtrusive, and I just wanted to shine bright." And she said, "All that was made possible, but I had to work bloody hard. I could have been at home on a farm with chickens, but look how that turned out." So she'd always wanted to be surrounded by animals, and she had that with the beautiful ranch home that she did eventually create for herself. But she worked so hard. She went through such a lot. You know, growing up as a child, she had struggles, and obviously she moved. And she says, I did lead a blessed life, but she worked for that life. You know, she worked hard to get the openings that she got. She wasn't one of these people that just landed on her feet. She did have to work for it. And she says that's why she wanted to give back. She was given so much, and that's why she wanted to give back. And the animals, she says, the animals were the constant thread that ran through this all. And in a way, they spurred her on, because, you know, a lot of the awareness she was able to raise through being so popular and so well known was afforded to her because of that status, and she was grateful to the company the animals gifted to her and the love, but to kind of give back to them, she used her platform for good. So she was raising awareness around, like I said, with her institutions, with the centre where she was working with people to find natural remedies with cancer, but also for all the outreach work she did, raising awareness with the animals. And that was her gift back to them. She was given so much in her work and being able to travel. She wanted to give back, so that was how she did it. And I think that's really beautiful. You know, she was a lady that, by all accounts and purposes, she was very wealthy. Her home, her beautiful ranch home, was worth millions. But you don't feel that with her. You can really feel like, yeah, she says the money was a bonus. It was a bonus and a blessing. She did not want it to become a curse. So she never, it just feels like she didn't have any ego. And, you know, as I said, I don't know her. I never had, apart from this, she's saying you do have the joy of working with me. We're working together now. I never had the joy of working with her in a capacity, you know, with her music or her movies or anything like that. But you can just feel, she feels very down to earth for the fact that she was such a huge star. She really doesn't feel like there's much ego about her at all. She still had a hard time quite believing that she was adored as she was, that she was as successful as she was, and that people were interested in her. Because, as I'd said, she'd said that sometimes, you know, she'd felt gawky and excuse me, she felt gawky and overlooked, and she wanted to shine brightly. And oh my goodness, Olivia, don't you shine brightly. In life, she shone so brightly. Her beautiful face, her personality, her joyful music. It seems to me, from what I've read, anyone that has worked with her has beautiful things to say about her, about what a lovely person she was. And I certainly got that from this channeling, but also with her here again now. Her energy is a lovely energy to be in. It's a very it is almost like a childlike energy still. She still had, and you know, one of the things I loved about Olivia, she had such beautiful eyes, these big, beautiful blue eyes. She looked at the world with wonder, and that never stopped. And she says she still, even now she's in spirit, she still looks at the world with wonder, and she sees it all. So yeah, she worked really hard, and she did get the animals and the ranch that she wanted, and she had that lovely balance of the two things, her career and her beautiful home. And I did read earlier, actually, when I was doing a little bit of research, I did read that she had originally decided to sell that ranch, and she'd planted beautiful trees with the vision that eventually, when she did sell it, that somebody who loved Mother Earth as much as she did would then tend to the trees that she had planted. But then obviously when she was diagnosed with cancer again, and her cancer had spread to her back, she decided that they wouldn't sell the ranch, and she was going to live out her days there in California, surrounded by her husband and her animals and her family. And that is what she did. And I've only seen a few photos. I think I would like to spend more time going back to look to see if there are more photos online, because it looked like a beautiful home. And yeah, she's saying, I was going to say, it looked really tranquil in the pictures I saw, and she said it was her sanctuary. But it was a sanctuary for her and for all that came. There was, and I think she was very aware of it. She says, oh yes, she was very aware of the energy that she put into her home, because as I said earlier, it was very important to her to have that separation between professional rush, you know, the work life, and when she chose to have time out. And she wanted other people to feel a slice of that as well. She wanted them to come. So whether people realized it or not, when they came to this home that she had created as this beautiful sanctuary, they were receiving deep healing. Yeah, deep healing when they came to that beautiful home as well, which I think is, again, it's very selfless, isn't it? Creating a beautiful space, not only for yourself to enjoy, but welcoming others in to enjoy that piece that you created as well. She's just such a special lady. And she said to me during the channeling, she said, it's hard for me to understand. Oh, sorry. It's curious. The first part of this, it's curious to me that you want to be here, meaning me. And I said to her, well, I want you, I wanted to get to know her and to understand why she came to me. And she smiled and just said to me, I reached out before. And that was when I first felt her around me with the song. She was trying to give me the song. And I said to her, but I wasn't ready. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what you wanted me to do. And she said, all you needed to do was listen. And you have done that beautifully. And it was just lovely to be in her energy and talk to her. And, we talked about a lot of things. And she said to me, it's hard for me to understand the world as it is today. So much obsession, losing track of reality. Does it make people happy to only be online? And she was talking to me about, she's saying, pick up a book, sit under a tree. She was talking to me about the complete disconnect, the disconnect that people have from nature, because her whole life she was deeply connected to nature and to understanding nature and understanding the animal kingdom and raising awareness. This whole thing of being online, and we were kind of, I was showing her like with Instagram and things like that. Yes, it helps us to reach more people. Obviously, with this work I'm doing, I'm able to reach people all over the world with my YouTube channel. But we're also isolating ourselves at the same time. And she says that's not balance, one extreme to another. It's so easy for us to go online and read about the world rather than get out and experience it. I've said before, when I went traveling in 2005 on my own, and it was terribly scary, but it was something I'd always wanted to do. And it completely it gave me confidence. It helped me to understand myself because I spent a lot of time on my own. I spent a lot of time in nature. And we've lost that. We've lost the connection to the earth and to ourselves. And I know, she was saddened by that. But she says, we can change that as long as we are mindful, like she was, about the balance between work and rest. As long as we are mindful, we can enjoy the benefits that technology affords us. But let's not get lost in that. Let's not become lazy. Let's not lose ourselves and disconnect from all that we are. Like she was saying at the start about when I was trying to do a bit of research to give you some kind of facts about her. They were facts about her. That was not her. And she was always very aware of who she was. And it was important to her to always maintain that sense of self through all of the years and all of what she did. So yeah, she was having a hard time understanding that so many people are just quite happy to live online. Even down to the fact that people don't really communicate. They're happy to send a text rather than picking up the phone. I remember being younger, if I wanted to speak to my friends outside of school, I had to go down the road to the payphone. You couldn't just send a text. And people were, she's saying reliable. People were kind of more reliable, but I think also people had to be accountable. So if you'd said to your friend on a Friday night as you left school, I'll meet you in town on Saturday, you had no way of dropping them at the last minute. Sure, you could not turn up, but it wasn't something we did. We just didn't do that. Whereas now, people will send a text, a couple of hours before, really sorry, something's changed, can't make it, and let people down. And it's easier because you're not there face to face. There's no sense of accountability, and we need to be accountable. If we're not accountable, yeah, she's saying, how can we expect change in the world when we don't want to be accountable for our own lives? We can't expect anyone to be accountable for what's going on in the world if we don't start with us. It all starts here. Yeah. And she said, they must stop. She was very, very, and I like this about her. She has this lovely, gentle energy, but don't be deceived. Yeah, she says, I have friendliness and fire. Don't be deceived. She was a strong lady. She still is a strong lady. You know, she fought for what was right. She fought for what she believed in. And as nice as she was nobody's fool. And I like that about her. So she said, they must stop all of this, you know, just being online. All of this will cease to be. And then what? They have nothing. Do the fun stuff. Get out there. Live wild and take it all in. There is nothing you cannot do. Enjoy life. And I get this real sense of just that she did enjoy life. Even when she was diagnosed with cancer, she says, sure, that was a blow to her. It was a blow to her self-esteem, but it was also a wake-up call and a shake-up call. She was like, oh, this is another thing. This is just another thing that's occurred. This is part of my life journey. What am I going to do about it? And she had this, I feel like she had this energy of problem solving. She didn't want to wallow too long. Things happened and it was like, what can I do? How can I make it better? How can I bring light to this? And that's what she said about it. She just always wanted to shine bright, and she absolutely did. She feels like, you know, people often say about if you light a candle, you can use one candle to light 1,000 others by sharing the flame. And I'm seeing that with her. She was a beautiful light in the world. And whether people realised it or not, whenever they interacted with her, even just listening to her songs, and I know from growing up and loving her music, it filled me with joy. I can still, every time I hear it, I feel joy. She was the flame that lit 1,000 other flames. Everyone that came into contact with her, she gifted a little piece of that spark, a little piece of that light and that joy for life within them. She says things shifted. She wasn't always aware of that. Things shifted for people when she was around, and she's more aware of that now. It was part of her mission here, that she sometimes ignited the spark within people to change for the better in their own lives. And she wasn't always aware she was doing it, but she knows it occurred. And she says that she sees it now for the first time. She sees it now, that was part of her purpose, which is absolutely beautiful. So at this point in the channeling, back in 2023, she was looking really thoughtful. And I asked her if there was any sadness with her. And she said, some sadness, mostly about going on tour, someplace different, lack of friends and lonely nights. People think you are this big star, but that's the outside. You just want to sit with a cuppa and chat to relax and unwind. The screen personality is not me. That's not who I am when I'm alive. I used to get terribly lonely on tour. And she was showing me, and it was this like the first vision that she showed me with the room that felt kind of where the man had come in, which I'm guessing he was like a record label exec or something like that, coming in with this paperwork. It felt very empty, felt very kind of two-dimensional and flat. And she loved performing. She says, don't get me wrong, she loved sharing her music and she loved performing. She loved being on set. She loved interacting with people. And she does feel like she made some friends, some genuine friends. But she's showing me that was like putting on your work uniform. You know, it's that thing, isn't it, of when we go into the workplace ourselves, you leave behind whatever you're dealing with at home. You kind of leave it there, and it's like home persona, work persona, and then you have persona that you have with your friends and family where they get to see the real you. And it feels like, you know, sometimes it was where she just, like I'd said, she with the busy, she got really tired of always doing, and she had that longing to kind of be more in alignment with her own energy of, you know, slowing down and flowing. And as much as she loved the work side of things, it did feel quite lonely because, you know, if you're working on something with people, you know, you might be only working with them for a short period of time, maybe for a month or something like that. And you get to know them, but you don't fully get to know them. You get to know a portion of them. Yeah, she's saying you only see a snippet of their life. And so you can't cram everything in. You can't possibly fully know someone in such a short space of time. You know, and people do think, oh, it'd be great to be famous. I love singing. I love, you know, playing guitar or whatever that is. I'd love to go on tour. How amazing would it be to like be in front of my fans? And while there is that aspect of it, you're the person at the end of the day, the person who has so much more to you, so many facets of you, and that need to connect with people that do know you. And being on tour, obviously you're away from family and friends for quite some time. And while you may make, you know, friendships, they're kind of like light friendships. She's saying bite-sized friendships. They're friendships that you form around what you're doing at the time. It's a little bit like when you form friendships with work colleagues. You know, you might have lunch with them. You laugh about the things that have gone wrong in your day, or you know, you have mutual understanding because you're working together and you're seeing each other every day. So you're friends in that capacity, and you may socialize outside of work. But very often, if one of you leaves the job, because then you go on to something different and you have different time constraints, maybe different working hours, maybe even in a different location, your life kind of separates again. And so you don't see each other as often, or you may even lose contact with each other. And this is the feeling that she's giving me. It's very, she doesn't like the word superficial, because she said some of the people that came into her life absolutely just got her. But they were fleeting friendships, is more of what she's saying, fleeting friendships. And she had that longing sometimes when she was on tour and she'd go back to her hotel room. She missed that. She was a real homebody. She missed the comforts, the home comforts, the surroundings that she knew, and the friends and the family and the animals, like the big hug that her personal life was. She missed that. And so it could be very lonely. And so she did have that kind of conflict within herself of like, you know, this is great. And when she was raising awareness for things that she cared deeply about, but she also had that longing of, you know, the home comforts and the people that knew her on a deep level, the people that saw her, knew her and knew her fully, not just for a short period of time. But she's very adamant that she's not downplaying any of the connections that she had in her business life. She valued all of them deeply. She still values them deeply. And she said, and they brought great value to her. People that she worked with or came into contact with taught her so much as well, and helped her to develop and got her to where she was. So she's not downplaying it. She's just wanting to show the contrast between the two, and just, you know, just being very transparent. And I love that about her. She's very, very in touch with her emotions and not afraid to show them either, which is incredibly important. And I think a lot of the time, that's another thing we do online. We show up and we're all smiles, and we show up and, you know, there's filters that we put on to mask when we're not looking our best. We only talk about the good things in our life, and we keep hold of the things that aren't so good because, you know, people aren't going to want to hear that. But she was very open with her emotions. And even though she painted on a smile when she needed to, she says the people that knew her, they saw and they knew and they understood. And she was grateful that she had those people that did deeply know her as well. So there's no like, oh, you know, the people I work with were rubbish. None of that. They were all equally important in her life. She's just showing that contrast and talking about how, you know, sometimes she did feel lonely. It's the same for any of us. You know, it can be fun, can't it? Even when you go on holiday, and I've noticed this particularly as I've got older, it's always fun to go somewhere new. And, you know, staying in a hotel room is lovely because you don't have to, you know, someone comes in and they change the sheets and they tidy for you, and it's lovely. It's lovely to have that done. You'll get your meals cooked for you. there's a certain freedom with that. However, as much fun as it is, it's almost like the novelty kind of wears off. And as you get towards the end of your holiday, you're actually longing for the place that feels like yours, you know, for the bed and the pillow that feels like yours. And you have that moment when you get home and you get back into your bed and you're like, oh, this is where I am. This is where I belong. It's that kind of feeling. So there's no like she didn't like this or didn't like that. She's just literally laying it out there of like, this is what I went through. These are the emotions and these are the things that I felt at the time. She said fireworks were fun. We used to throw a big party and have a laugh and have fireworks. And she was showing me like a gathering, I guess, with family and friends where fireworks would be let off. And it felt like perhaps something like New Year or a celebration of some sort where they were all laughing and you could hear like there was music on and they were laughing and joking. And it was a real lovely, like upbeat vision that she was showing me. She was just really full of love for life and full of love for all of the people that were in her life, no matter how long or short they were, you know, the duration that they were in her life. So we had been speaking for a really long time, for 2 to 3 hours. And I said to her, you know, I was getting tired. Channeling is very tiring because I said at the start, you're in an elevated vibration. You're maintaining an elevated vibration. You're also interpreting lots of information that's coming through quite quickly and you know, struggling to keep up. As I said with my notes, I'm struggling to keep up as she was chatting to me. And you're also trying to be present. You have to be present so that you're feeling and understanding in order to be the best channel that you can and bringing through the messages exactly as they're trying to share them. You're setting aside your own ego and, you know, from your human point of view from getting in. You're literally working on an energy and spirit level, which is you're making a special effort in order to do that, because normally you're a human in your human existence. You're not on that level. That's an altered state that you are physically, emotionally and spiritually, mentally putting yourself into. So it's incredibly tiring. It is tiring physically, because like when I see these places and I'm taken through this to walk through, you're physically experiencing the walking around and being somewhere different. But energetically, it's very tiring, and it's tiring for your mind as well, because you're separating out, you know, your brain is working in a different way where you're separating out your normal human experience in order to connect on this energy level. Yeah, she says more people will be doing that going forward. We're going to remember, because that's how we used to work. Before we forgot who we were, we all used to communicate telepathically. We all used to work on an energy level, and it was easy. It was as we are being now. That was our norm then. And she's saying as more people kind of turn back on to remembering and connecting into the ancient ways of being, it will become easier. It will flow more. It will become much easier. But we have to do the work to get ourselves to that point. And like she's going back to when she said about facing her own shadow side, we have to do that work. We can't expect it to be all joy and all love all of the time, because life is not like that. Life is about balance. It's about light and dark. And as she was showing, you know, as I said, with the cancer diagnosis, when she got the cancer diagnosis again and it had spread to her back, which eventually caused her passing, she was like, she didn't, when it came back again, it wasn't like, oh, not this again. Oh, no. This time it was like, kind of like she's giving me the energy of like, hello, old friend, we've been here before. She didn't feel the same way about it because she'd done all that work to understand. She'd raised awareness. She'd set up this beautiful foundation to help others. So she says, I didn't have a minute for my suffering. It wasn't, that wasn't in the forefront of her mind. Yes, she allowed herself to feel the emotions that came with that diagnosis. But she says, I was damn sure I wasn't going to sit in that for too long. She wanted to utilize it to give her power. And that's exactly what she did. And I think that's a really lovely teaching moment for all of us. So she's saying, like, we have to face the shadow side, the side of us that are perhaps the mask that we hide, that we don't want others to see. Like she's showing me the painted on smile. Yeah, and I'm aware that I do it. I do it too. You know, I've made no secret about the fact that I find public speaking difficult. I do. I don't like it. I was quite shy growing up. I find it difficult, but I'm fully aware that this is my mission. My mission is to raise awareness. It is to share my abilities. It is to be a voice for the animal kingdom, to share messages from spirit, and to be on this journey of my own growth and building my own self-confidence. And so it's being aware, and that's what she's saying. Like, even though I don't always like speaking, here I am and I'm doing it. And each time I do it, I understand more and I feel a bit more comfortable. So we have to face those darker parts of us, the parts that we normally do hide, so that we can understand ourselves. We can understand our own healing journey. We can understand where those parts come from. Are they from previous experiences? Are they traumatic experiences? Is it stored trauma within us? Is it ancestral trauma that is being passed down that we can now look at, understand, and break the cycle? But yeah, she's saying feel it, but make sure you don't spend too long in it. We have to grow and heal and move forward. And she's saying it gives you strength. It gives you strength to do that. Yeah, she's saying it's an achievement. You will find it's an achievement. Pat yourself on the back every time. Yeah, she's saying you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to tackle all these things. Like, let's look at all the really hard parts of myself right now. That would literally send you over the edge. Tackle one thing at a time. You know, if it is like I said, like with public speaking, oh, I don't like doing this. It makes me really uncomfortable. Record a voice note, send it to a friend. Or record a voice note, listen to it back. Why does it make you uncomfortable? What don't you like? Was there a situation where you spoke up previously and, you know, perhaps you were laughed at or you stumbled over your words and it's a memory that's caused you to have this trauma? It's all about healing, and we cannot expect the world to heal and to grow for us if we don't want to own our part in it. And that's why Olivia was such an advocate for healing. She wanted to show other people it was possible. Yeah, and she says, and cancer didn't beat her. Didn't beat her once, and it didn't beat her twice. She still doesn't, even though the reason she passed was from the cancer spreading. It didn't defeat her. It was just the reason she passed. And I feel quite emotional her saying that, because again, so often we will say, oh, the cancer killed them. You know, and it's actually not that. It's a circumstance of the passing. Yeah, she's saying again, it's back to that whole, like, the facts about people. That's not who they were. They weren't their cancer. That was something they had, something they dealt with. And I've always felt uncomfortable, and her saying this has made me like, oh, I totally get it. I've always felt really uncomfortable when people say they lost the battle with cancer, because it makes them sound defeated, and they weren't defeated. They were going through it. They were dealing with it. They were undergoing treatment. She says they were fighting back. Yeah, she says, let's not be victims. Let's see things in their own right. They may be things that occur on our pathway, things that happen to us, but they don't make us. And that was just her soul contract. That was how she left the world. But she says she felt like even when it came back a second time, she really wasn't, as I said, she was more determined than ever to, like, right, what can I do about it this time? She'd been there before. This wasn't something she was going to relive in the same cycle. This was a moment of determination of, like I said, it was that feeling of like, hello, old friend, we've been here before. I see you. I know how this works. Yeah, and she says she approached it with no malice. She was never like, I hate you, Cancer. She was never, she was just flowing with it. She was just, yeah, she says there were times when she felt frustrated, times when she felt sad. And indeed, there were times, she says, indeed, there were times when I thought, why me? But then she said, you just, oh, she says, this is your tune. This is your life's tune. And you sing it and you go through it and you listen and you understand and you grow. Yeah, this was the tune of her life. This was, yeah. So she's like, don't feel sad. The cancer didn't get me. It didn't get her. She had it and she passed with it, but it didn't get her. I really like, she's got this real like spunky energy of like, just, yeah, she wasn't a victim. She's just a lovely strong lady, but had just a humble, ego set aside, beautiful way of being. And there's real power in that. Quiet power, gentle power, but very powerful nonetheless. So I'd said to her that I was feeling tired, and she swung her legs down off the sofa that she was sitting on, and she stood up, and she was just so slim and dainty and delicate and just so perfectly neat. And in every photo I've ever seen of her, she was one of those ladies that just, she was so elegant. And I do feel like she had a bit of an energy of like how Princess Diana was, just that real, it's almost like an ethereal energy, the way that they looked, the way they carried themselves, always dressed so elegantly, very feminine, very beautiful, very, like I said, very soft, but with that inner fire and the lovely cheeky side. I know Diana had a great sense of humour as well. So yeah, she stood up and she just looked so beautiful. And again, she kept doing this thing. She kept smoothing her hands on her trousers, like it's like almost like it's like a self-comforting thing, but it's almost like a nervousness of like, she kept smoothing down the front of her trousers on her thighs with her hands. And she smoothed her hands on her trousers again, and she looked up with the same beaming smile, but this time it fully met her eyes. And it was like in that moment, I fully saw her, like even in this time I'd spent with her, she's saying, you see, what she was talking about everyone brought value to her life, and she touched everyone, even in the 2 to 3 hours that I spent with her in this channeling session and the time I'm spending with her now. She just took me on this journey of like understanding all the things she went through, the ups and the downs, the contrasts, the things she was aware of, the healing journey that she was on. And I fully felt in this moment where she had this beautiful beaming smile that did reach her eyes, that I fully saw her for all that she was and all of her beauty, both inside and out. And she was radiant. And she said to me, till next time, will you come again? And I suddenly had, and this makes me feel really emotional and I'm still blown away by it, I suddenly had this really odd moment of realization that this whole time, Olivia wasn't here with me. I was an energetic visitor in her realm. And that blew me away. I was talking, and I've been talking while I've read my channeling from then to you, been talking about, I was suddenly immersed in this world with her. And it's a bit like that movie, The Others, you know, the movie with Nicole Kidman, where they believe their house is haunted and they keep seeing all these spirits. And then towards the end, they actually realise that they're the spirits in the house. They've been dead this whole time. It was this moment of realisation where this energy connection was not her coming into my world and showing me this vision. She was literally taking my energy into her realm and walking me through it and showing me. And it still blows my mind, that profound moment of realization of, hang on a minute, like I'm her guest. It's not the other way around. And I just said to her, yes, if you will have me, I would love to speak with you again. And she clasped her hands together and she did like this little bow to me, and she was like, she said, great, I'll make us tea. And she put her hands on both of my shoulders. We were standing opposite each other, and she looked into my eyes, and even now I can feel she stood by me with her hand on my shoulder, and it just felt like connecting with a friend. Her energy, and I feel like she had the ability to make anyone feel like that. Anyone she encountered in life, she had the ability to make them feel like a friend, because in that moment we felt like old friends, even though I'd only spent 2 to 3 hours with her. And it was like, I'll make us tea. Like, we were going to sit down and continue having a natter. And she gestured to me with her arm towards the door. And as I walked away, all of the surroundings where I'd been in this apartment with her, all of it just merged into this beautiful pastel coloured mist and disappeared as I was brought back into the sunshine in my garden. And I feel so blessed. I still feel quite humbled and surprised that she has gifted me this beautiful connection with her, and that she wants to work with me. She's saying I'm one of your spirit team now. But it makes perfect sense. As I began doing the research on her after this session, the deep love and connection that she had with the animal kingdom and Mother Earth is everything that my work is about. And I just feel very honoured, and I look forward to learning so much from her, and just seeing where this journey of mine takes me, but also remembering what she said about the importance of balance. And I share that with you again for your own lives, to remember to create that time and that space to have your personal time, to be you. Don't keep, as she said, the whole do. Let's stop doing and start being. We're supposed to be human beings. And she's laughing. I like that. But we're supposed to be enjoying this journey, and we're missing so much of it, you know. And I think as well, so often people, you know, it's that phrase, isn't it? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. So often people will wait until they burn out and they have a breakdown, or until they get diagnosed with something awful, or until they lose a loved one, before they let it kind of shake them up and wake them up. Don't let that happen. Be aware of it now. Be aware of your life. And she's saying, don't forget to put boundaries in place. Put your boundaries in place. And she was, as I'd said earlier, she was very, it was categorically no, she is saying. When she had planned that downtime, that family time, friends with her animals, it was categorically no. Work was switched off. There was no talk of it. There was no contact about it. There was no, I'm just looking into this. There was nothing. And we need to say categorically no, like Olivia is saying us. And she's saying you can be sweet when you say it. You don't have to be, you don't have to be fiery all of the time. She's saying keep the fire burning below the surface, and show me like a volcano. Most of the time, volcanoes are just bubbling along, getting along with it. They only erupt when they really have to, when great change is needed. So you can keep your fieriness, keep it there until you need it, but be firm and categorically no when you need to separate out your work time and your time for yourself. She says about love, don't forget about love. She found unexpected love at the age of 59 with her partner, John Easterling. They got married in 2008. And interestingly, when you look back on her life, her parents got divorced quite young, and when she was quite young. and I think she was 10 when they got divorced. And it was around a time when it was kind of quite frowned upon. And she had said that because her father was a university professor and he actually got kicked out of the university when they got divorced. It was almost like a real shame thing. And so she had that hang up about love and about marriage and not wanting to get married. And she was married previously, and she got divorced. And that was when she got divorced, it was shortly before she set up her first foundation, I believe. But that was something that she worked through, and so she really wasn't looking for love. She says it came and found me when John came into her life. Yeah, and then they got married in 2008, and by all accounts and purposes, it sounds like they brought so much joy to each other's life, and they had such a beautiful, beautiful home with all of the animals. She got the animals. She originally wanted to be a vet and didn't like the idea of having to go to veterinary school. I think she had said she struggled a little bit academically. She says she would have lost interest in the paperwork side of it. And then she wanted to be a mounted horse guard, but when she wanted to do that, it wasn't really very popular, so she didn't. And it was like she kind of put it on the back burner, went off and did these other things while still loving animals and having her own animals and creating this beautiful home. But then it came full circle, and it was like she was able to not only embrace and love the animals in her own life and this sanctuary, as she'd said she created for herself and her family and her animals, but also to use her platform for good. And she says to help people more than I ever thought that I would. And so, as she'd said, she just wanted to shine brightly. She does. She shines so brightly while she was upon the earth, bringing so much joy to so many people with her music and her writing, and her movies. And she's still sharing that joy from spirit with us. Yeah, and I'm really, really honoured that she is part of my team and is working with me, and I'm interested to see where this will go with her knowledge and wisdom about the animals as well. She just really is such a lovely lady, such a lovely light, and I really hope that today I've done her justice by bringing through her beautiful, warm, loving energy and sharing with you some of the insights that she wants to gift, things that she found helpful to help her navigate this journey, and to help perhaps expand our perspective on putting a positive spin on the things that sometimes seem slightly darker in our world. Going back to what I said at the start about Olivia's last song, which was in 2021, it was a duet that was released with her daughter, and it was called Window in the Wall. I'd never heard of it, and I listened to it for the first time this morning, and it actually brought me to tears. The lyrics are beautiful. I will put a link in this video so that you can go listen to it yourself. I will read the lyrics to you because I think that they are really important for where we are at now. So I'm just going to get these over here so I can look at them. So in 2021, this was released. It says, okay, has this world forgotten how to love? Are we blinded by the hate we let inside? No one's giving in or giving up. The lines are drawn and there's no compromise. This isn't who we are. It's time for us to start looking for a window in the wall. Maybe we can see the other side and find we're not so different after all. Looking for a window in the wall. Sometimes hearts can grow as cold as stone, then become the borders we can't cross. The fertile fields of trust where love had grown slowly start to die when hope is lost. That's where we are right now, but we can turn it all around by looking for a window in the wall. Maybe we can see the other side and find we're not so different after all, looking for a window in the wall. We're waging war, we've died enough, fighting for everything but love. It's time to heal and turn the page. Too much to lose, so much to save. We have to change. Looking for a window in the wall. Maybe we can see the other side and find we're not so different after all. Looking for a window in the wall. Such a beautiful song with such powerful lyrics, and I just really feel that it's all about what she's been speaking to me about today and through the channeling from 2023, talking about, you know, looking at ourselves so that we can make a difference in the world. I leave that with you with so much love from me and from Olivia Newton-John. Thank you for listening. If you did enjoy this video, please do like, comment, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram over at Spirit Journey of Enlightenment also, which is a mix of both my human and animal work. If you are interested in my animal communication, please follow my other YouTube channel, The Words of the Wild, and I will speak to you again in another video. Thanks for listening. Take care.